What's going on, y'all? How's your guys' day going? Hope you're having a good day. My day's okay. Thank you for asking. There's something heavy on my mind, as per usual. It feels as though that we've become optional as a people, right? Where our sense of self and what we have to bring to the table is no longer required, right? Even in our day-to-day relationships, even in the simple things that we choose to engage with, right? Where it's all optional. Your contribution means nothing. And not because the other person doesn't care, but because there's nothing there, right? Like replaceability, essentially, is what it is at the end of the day. Is replaceability, being able to be replaced. And the way to think of it is like replaceability is like morality without death, right? Where you have such a heavy sense of presence, but then you take away one aspect of that presence and the whole thing comes crumbling down. It's the same exact thing, I feel. We see this more often than not in our jobs, which is a very, very, very serious thing, right? Like something a little bit different, not too off topic, but I find it sad, very, very sad. I may have mentioned this before in a previous video, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's so sad to me that the only forms of escapism, right, like of getting out of the loop, is not necessarily just being an entrepreneur, but what being an entrepreneur means now, right? Like when people think of entrepreneur, the first thing that they think of is streamer, YouTuber, vlogger, what, maybe business at the end. That's at the end of the list, right? For at least for my generation. For my generation, our form of escaping the loop, the system, whatever word you might want to use, is, oh well, I just gotta hope I become a YouTuber. Oh well, I just gotta hope I or maybe even the NFL, right? Like sports. But even then, those are fleeting. Those are slowly fleeting away. And like I said, it's somewhat off topic, but it's along the same line. Because you have to think about it. If everything we're chasing is in of itself something that is a replacement of something else, then we've not actually moved anywhere. That's the core of my problem. It's not so much the fact that we're being replaced at all, or that, it might be more difficult to find honesty and virtue and, honorableness, right? Those things have been replaced with, like, how you see all the time, like cheap dopamine, oh, the fastest way to get a girlfriend, fastest way this, or oh, all you gotta do is this. Like, they boil everything down, right? They take people, just influencers of all kinds, they take these topics and, oh well, all you gotta do is 1 2 3. Well, all you gotta do is follow my course, right? Like that's all, everything. They've taken everything and they just put it into this like giant, I don't even know, like like if you had, like, how hot dogs are meat from every other meat. I don't know if you know that, by the way. That's something I didn't learn until I was way older. Hot dogs are other meats all put together. That's what a hot dog is. And so I feel as though that's exactly what society has become. Or people rather, sorry. The large majority, the people you see on social media, that is, not necessarily the day-to-day people, the average person, but more so social media has become an amalgamation of all the other things that already exist. So what you're being replaced with is not actually something new. It's just something you could say different, right? Because they're not necessarily the same thing, new and different, right? Like streamer, for example. There has always been some level of entertainment in being your own kind of person, regardless of what you're doing. Like whether or not, like for example, think of vlogger. right? Like back in 2015, 2016, when vlogging was really popular, even though you may not necessarily be playing video games or have a chat or, whatever it might be, right? Even though you don't necessarily have the same components, it's still relatively the same thing, because that is the way in which you get to live your life and not have to like conform to anything. Your entertainment, or rather your content, is you. And so what that does, though, the problem with that is that when you have a group of young, women and men growing up and they see that, they're not going to try to be them. They're not going to try to be themselves. They're going to try to be you. They're going to see whatever it is you're doing and think, oh, well, then that's the way to do that, right? Instead of trying to reinforce their unique qualities. That's why replacement is such a popular thing, right? And that's the problem with replacement. So, like, look, you don't necessarily have to be an inventor. Like, I'm not saying, oh, well, you got to be out there inventing something brand new, something, nobody has ever seen. Like, that's really hard, right? Like, after the TV, the fridge, the super duper ultra lawnmowers that we have now, after all that stuff's been created, there's not a whole lot left to create. And so maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's because we're trying to create something new externally instead of internally, right? You ever notice that about the past? Like people like Friedrich Nietzsche and the painters and just the many philosophers or historians, they always were way, they had like the hugest resume, you could say, right? They always had the hugest resume. They were never, ever just one thing, right? Like obviously some were, but for the most part, they had a lot of aspects about them that made them who they were. So you could never replace them. You could never replace somebody like Friedrich Nietzsche if you tried to, right? Not because even if you tried to be a philosopher, even if you tried to, grow on top of the things that he had already thought, it just wouldn't. It would be like a lesser version of the thing that already exists. That's all it would end up being. And so I feel that same exact idea, lesser versions of things, are just being recycled. So think about it like this. Let's say, you have a hot dog, right? And that hot dog doesn't get eaten, but it's perfectly fine. Well, guess what? You run it back through the cycle, right? So then it becomes another hot dog. And you just keep taking that same original hot dog and just amalgamating it over and over again to the point it just becomes mush. It's not even a hot dog anymore because you've ran it through the cycle so many times that it has nothing. There's nothing there. You wouldn't be able to put it in the bun because it's all just slop, basically, right? Kind of like think of like how pigs eat, and it's just those like the trough. I think they eat out of troughs. I don't know if they do or not, but I think they eat out of troughs. It's basically the same thing. And it isn't so much that the things we're engaging with are slop, right? Or that there's something wrong with those things in of themselves. It's how we choose to react to those things that is the problem. That's why. That's where the problem comes from. It's not about making better movies, making better things, inventing new things. It's about becoming new people. It's about learning something. That's the part that's been forgotten. That's where this whole replaceability era has come from, or just being optional, right? Like, why would any company care about you if your money is green just like the rest of us? You have nothing to bring to the table. And this isn't like I know how that came across. This isn't meant to be like, this isn't like a particular connotation. I'm just trying to make a point that there's nothing to be had if all you've done is the same thing that's been done, right? And again, regardless of the way that it looks. Like, you could think of all of history in that way. Like, yeah, history repeats itself, but why? That's the question. Why? Why does history repeat itself? Because of us. Not because of things. It isn't because we make new movies. It isn't because we try to create new things. It's because we stay the same. So the quality of the things that you're making will never be better, right? They might be more convenient. They might be, like a hack of life, I think it's called, or like a piece of life, rather, where oh, it's so easy that I have everything, just shipped to me, right? Like, oh, I can just order everything on my phone. That's like a piece of life kind of thing where, we just get to enjoy. But what is lost, it isn't even necessarily you. You aren't necessarily being lost in that cycle of just like amalgamated people over and over again. Kind of like, have you ever met somebody who you can hear somebody else's thoughts or somebody else's mentality speaking through them? So it's not even them. The person you might be having a debate with somebody, you might be talking to somebody, and they are regurgitating something from someone else. And no, I'm not saying like, oh, you should be coming up with all of your own ideas and you should only be speaking from yourself. No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about like ideologies. I'm talking about mindsets. I'm talking about, like the nuances between the things you're talking about. Like, that person wouldn't be able to give you an answer, not because they're stupid or something, but because the person that they listen to hasn't answered for them. That's what it is. Oh, so-and-so hasn't released a video that I can go watch where he'll tell me what to say or tell me what to think, or they, doesn't matter who you're listening to. And so, like, I think that's the difference. Is that, like, where in the past, if you read a book or if you knew somebody, right, for something very popular, 9 times out of 10, that didn't make you want to just do the same thing they did. That made you want to do something even better. Oh, I want to bring myself out there. Oh, I want to be the, I want to, do even better. I want to, take what they did as a foundation and just build on top. And then guess what? It just repeats. It repeats, right, all the way up to the top into space. You break the barrier that way. But instead, it's almost like, imagine what we've done. Instead of going up, we go horizontally now, where it's like, oh, I want to add a piece to the puzzle, but to go the wrong way. We're going the wrong way. We're doing the right things, but we're going the wrong way. We're not supposed to go farther, right? Like longevity. That would be a good way to think about it. If I had to put it into words, it would be like, people are so much more interested in the longevity of something rather than how far that thing will take you. And so it doesn't matter if the thing in of itself sucks, as long as it's popular for a really long time, as long as it's, comprehensible, as long as it's just, eaten up by the masses, I suppose. There's nothing left for them to do. They're not going to try to renew it and make it better for the future and future generations, right? Like the same way that we used to in the past. That used to be a very normal thing. That's kind of where the whole point of, oh, the children are the future. The children are the future, right? We used to say that all the time. We don't say that anymore because we don't care. What is there? What is there to give them if every single thing we have is the same exact thing everybody else had? There's nothing to give them. Oh, you can have my old iPad. But they're not going to care. They're not going to care about your old iPad. They have the brand new super mega ultra freaking flying car probably. I know how ironic that sounds. That's what they used to say in the past, but you get my point. I know you know what I'm trying to say. And so it just makes me laugh because people are so beautiful, and you can meet the most beautiful person, and you might be talking to them about something, and it'll change your whole perspective because you'll immediately realize that this person is, not in a dehumanizing way, but this person is just, kind of run of the mill, kind of just pushing along the plow, basically, just a worker. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not the problem. It's just I just wish that creativity was pushed instead of toil, right? Instead of constantly trying to have more, let's try to make what we have more. I hope that makes sense. Instead of trying to gain more, try to make what you already have worth more. That's what I'm trying to say. And so, anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I was all over the place. I hope it was understandable. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for watching.